I want to talk about those people whose businesses are surrounded by computer clutter. I've been to see two businesses in the last couple of weeks, maybe the owners are watching these videos, and they've got a lot of computer stuff that's very old that they don't need anymore. Because this stuff cost a lot of money when it was new, thousands of pounds, there's some perception that this is still valuable, but it's not, it's junk. And also, there's two big issues. Number one is this stuff contains potentially confidential data. Should it get lost, there might be a GDPR breach. Secondly, you're spending a lot of money storing this clutter. That space that you're occupying could be used for something else. Maybe you could use it for office space for your team, or you could reduce the amount of space that you have now. Obviously, with people working from home more, we're doing a lot more hot desking. I really like the setups where people have the Surface Pro with dual screens, keyboard and mouse, and that's how I work. Plug in the magnetic connector, off you go, you can sit anywhere. If you're having problems with clutter, IT clutter in your business, not a problem. There's plenty of companies, and we can organise this for you, that will come and take it away and recycle it, reprocess it. Now, if you're in a high-risk industry, so you've got data that's highly confidential, I do recommend that you get the data wiped or the hard drives destroyed as part of the process. Now, if you're a small business and you've only got a few machines, you can probably do this yourself. You can drill a hole in the hard drive, or you can use a tool like DBAN to wipe the hard drive. If you are a bigger business, then there's plenty of companies out there that will come to your offices and they'll crush the hard drives for you and take the rest of the kit away. It's not expensive to do, it's not difficult to organise, but please get this clutter out of your life. Marie Kondo your old computers. That'll free up space in your server room or whatever, so you can get stuff done. Now, if your comms cabinet is full of a mass of spaghetti and loads of obsolete equipment and lights are flashing and it's just a mess, that's a real red flag for us. That shows that nobody's managing the IT. It's just kind of sitting there. And you think, well, is that really a problem, that I've got lots of computer clutter and that my server cabinet's a mess? Well, yes, because if there's a problem, which is a problem we had recently for a customer, maybe I'll try and include some photos here. Their internet didn't work, their phones didn't work. They're a business that relies on phones and internet to work. They could not run their business. And one of my guys went there and went, I don't know, there's just loads of stuff here. Nothing's labelled, there's no documentation, there's no passwords, we've got no idea what's going on. It should be at the stage where the janitor, cleaner, whatever can go in and you say, oh, can you restart this box? It's labelled this. That's what we want to see. And if it's clean and tidy, people generally keep it clean and tidy, and it's vastly quicker and easier to troubleshoot if there is a problem. If it's a real mess, it just takes so much longer. I'm not talking like a few minutes longer, but possibly like 3-4 hours longer. And if nobody can work, that's a big problem. So I highly recommend go and have a look at it. If it's not tidy, get your IT people to tidy it up. Not expensive, not complicated, and it's just it's a red flag. If we see that, we know there's other problems. We see untidy stuff, we see untidy racks. It's not being managed effectively. It's really clear. Either the people that are looking after it don't care, don't know what they're doing, or they're too busy. I want to talk a little bit more about system refreshes and having a plan. A lot of business owners, they see IT as a cost. It's not a tool they're using to grow their business. So obviously every penny that's spent on IT could be spent somewhere else to make more money. Probably not true, but when it comes to computer assets, once you've bought them, they're essentially worthless. Everyone's going to need a computer to work off, at least one, a desk, chairs, whatever. And these things depreciate over time. But what often happens, especially in small businesses, they buy a computer and they basically keep it forever until it eventually dies, and then they're surprised that they can't work and lose stuff. It seems ridiculous, but even big companies I've been in have got sort of 8, 9, 10-year-old computers, which is utterly ridiculous. So what we want is a plan. And usually most businesses should be replacing their computers between every sort of 3 to every 7 years. I recommend 4 years is a good starting point. So when you're looking at your budgeting, you can look at how many computers you need to replace each year and have a plan. But what happens if you sweat the assets and don't buy new computers? Well, your support costs go up, your staff satisfaction goes down. What happens if you replace the computers too often? Well, you've wasted a little bit of money. But the point here is that when I go into businesses and they've got all different computers and they're all different ages and there's no real plan or strategy, people don't have multiple screens, they're just working off one screen, they've got crusty old keyboards, I can tell pretty easily that nobody's managing this IT effectively. They've not got a plan, they've not got a strategy. And there's no reason why you can't keep some computers going a bit longer if you need to, but are you doing that for business reasons or because you see the costs on the line and you're going, well, we could probably get a bit more time out of these? you're not seeing the holistic total cost of ownership, because you've got the people's time, way more than the computer cost. You've got the support costs. You've got the staff's frustration of having a slow computer. Is there anything more frustrating in the world than a slow computer? I want to share with you a story. So a few years ago, I set up this website, 2003 server migrations, and I got rid of it years ago, but I was looking at the stats on Google recently. I noticed every month, hundreds of people go to this website, and what that tells me is people are still using Server 2003. Why? That's 20 years old. And what I realize is that a lot of businesses, they try and sweat the assets by keeping the old systems running. But what that actually means is when it comes time to migrate, your migration costs are much, much higher than if you'd done it step by step. And also, there's probably legacy systems that are going to be really difficult to migrate and complicated, and that bumps up the cost further. So my recommendation is that you always are never more than 2 versions behind. And if you're on a version of Windows that's no longer supported, like Server 2012, 8, 2003, etc., going backwards, you're just saving up problems. With the risks of cybersecurity nowadays, you really need to have those machines fully supported and fully up to date, or you're putting your business at massive risk. So I hope that makes sense and is useful to you. So if you've got legacy systems, think really hard about what are you doing and does this make business sense? Because you're saving up a big cost for the future, and it may exceed the cost of the value of the business. By saving this little bit of money, you're building up a massive technical debt which may come back to bite you. Why do I have so many IT problems? Now, this is an interesting one. Often people say to me, oh, I only get X number of support tickets a week, a month. And I go, that's a lot. That's an awful lot, because we use something called baseline configuration management nowadays. And what that means is that all our computers are essentially the same as much as possible. That really keeps the cost down. And what happens is that companies, they just acquire all this random kit and it's not being maintained properly. I met this guy once, he said it's a bit like buying drugs. Like you get your drugs from your dealer and then a few weeks later you need another fix. I think that's why system administrators and drug dealers call their customers users, because they know they're addicted to getting IT support. Please don't do that. Instead, your IT support should be providing strategic support, and they should be eliminating these problems. If they're only doing reactive support, you're missing a whole bunch of IT that could be helping grow the business. And part of my role as a strategic IT advisor really is to come in and kind of make sure that these things are going in the right path. That's not necessarily to micromanage them, but to make sure that you kind of have a path from wherever you are to making sure that we're moving to that baseline configuration management. It's very boring, but massively protects you from cybersecurity risks and reduces the cost of IT holistically. Now, as a business owner, you should not be having conversations with your IT about printers ever. For unfortunately, printers are incredibly unreliable. So they eat up a lot of support time. They eat up a lot of management support time. My recommendation is get a managed print service thing. They deal with all this dross. But we don't want to hear about this in our management meetings. We don't want to discuss it. It's not where the level of conversation we want to be having. We want to be looking at what we can do to strategically help the business to be more effective. And if all that conversation is around printers or email not working or whatever, that's not helping the business to use technology more effectively. So whoever you're using, whether it's me or someone else, to help you use IT more effectively, please make sure in the meetings you're not discussing hardware refreshes or printers or service delivery stuff, because that's not the major point. The point is to use IT to be more effective. And if you're not doing that, you're missing out a huge opportunity for your business. So today I want to talk about how to annoy your IT guy. It's really simple. Go and buy some really expensive art for your reception, or maybe some nice marble tiles. There was this post I saw a while back, and this IT manager, he was really frustrated, he's really angry, because this is what happened to him. Somebody, the owners of his business, they spending a lot of money on stuff to make the office look pretty, but they weren't spending the basic money that he needed to keep the lights on, to keep things operational. And he was obviously pissed. So don't get into that position. What you need to do is you need to have a roadmap. So a lot of technical people really struggle to explain the business benefits of spending money on technology. So as a business leader, you need to take the time to understand the risks and the benefits. So for example, here,
The IT guy was quite clear that he didn't have enough funds to keep the systems operational, but yet the business wasn't hearing that, it wasn't understanding. Having a 3-year budget with a plan makes a lot of sense. Now, I recommend that you look at 3-year life cycles for IT equipment for budgeting purposes, so you depreciate them over those 3 years. That may be that you can extend it for much longer, 5 years possibly, but obviously if your team are really hard on their machines, you might even want to cut it further. But the point here is what we're doing is we're having a plan ahead. We're not leaving it to the last minute to make decisions. What will happen here is this guy will either leave or just stay there, and then they'll go, well, no one can work for 3 days because this broke. And they go, well, why didn't you sort this out? You don't know what you're doing. It's like, no, I told you this was going to happen, but not in the way that the business leaders could understand. So my job is to kind of translate this stuff, but as a leader, your job is to listen really carefully and make sure that you understand the risks of doing something and the risks of not doing something. Ask the IT guy, can you go away and think what would happen if we don't do this, or we leave it another year, and come back to me so I understand the risk and what decision I need to make, because I don't have enough information, and otherwise I'm just going to say no, which might put the business at risk.
Thanks so much for watching, and speak to you soon.